Court come to order. All right, good afternoon again. You may be seated. Mr. Petrie, I believe you're doing cross-examination?
Yes, sir. Very briefly, Your Honor.
Oh, ask as many questions as you wish.
Thank you.
There's no time limit.
I understand that. I'm still going to be brief. Ms. Goff, with Ms. Cross during the break, I asked you to look at the state's exhibits 14 through 20. I think maybe 18 and 19 aren't in that batch, but I asked you to look at them with a particular idea in mind. Have you had that chance now?
I did.
Okay. And what I would like to ask you is, having examined states 14, 15, 16, 17, and 20, can you tell us now, between Mrs. Sneiderman and Mr. Newman, who was the initiating party in each of those? And I call them streams. I'm not sure if that's what you call when somebody sends an email, somebody replies, and you can have 4, 5, 6, however many.
Right.
Who was the original sender in all of those strings of emails?
Mr. Newman?
Okay. She didn't initiate any of them?
No.
Okay. That's all I have, Your Honor.
All right. Any redirect?
No, Your Honor.
All right. May this witness be released and excused from her subpoena? Do you want her to remain under subpoena?
I'm going to need the witness to remain under subpoena.
That's fine.
Potential recall, Your Honor.
Not a problem. Although I tried to release you before, but you got to stay in town for a while, okay? You can come down at this point in time, but don't go to Jackson Hawksbury Airport, okay? All right. Call your next witness.
The state calls Detective Nathaniel McManus.
All right.
Your Honor, may we approach?
Sure, come up, Lord. It's not a problem.
While the witness is coming in.
All right, before you minister the oath, and I know the media is present and the media will remain present, I've been advised by the state, Mr. Media Representative, that this person may work in an undercover capacity. They've asked me to make an inquiry or a direction for you not to videotape his face because he works in an undercover capacity. I'm not controlling you, I'm not controlling the media, but I'm directing you to videotape his face for the purpose of this
He's a detective from law.
matter. All right. You may proceed, Mr. Deputy.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give to the court today shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. You may go ahead, you may be seated. Sir, if you would, please state and spell your name for the record.
Detective Nathaniel McManus.
And Detective, I'm sorry?
M-C-M-A-N-U-S.
Detective McManus, what is your current employment? Where do you work?
I'm a detective with the Longmont Police Department, Longmont, Colorado.
Longmont, Colorado. And can you tell the jurors, please, where is Longmont, Colorado in relation to another major city or other identifying?
It's about an hour north of Denver.
You are a detective. How long have you been a detective with the Longmont Police Department?
I've been a detective with the police department for 5 years, a little over 5 years.
And how long have you been employed with the Longmont Police
Let
Department?
me correct that. I've been employed for a little over 5 years. I've been a detective for a little over 2.5.
Can you tell the jurors just a little bit about what your duties and responsibilities are? What do you do?
I'm currently assigned to the Special Enforcement Unit. We work major crimes and narcotics offenses.
All right. Do you have occasion at times to become involved in an investigation outside the jurisdiction of the Longmont Police Department?
Yes, on a regular occasion.
Okay. Were you asked to do anything in connection with the investigation into the murder of Rusty Sneiderman?
Yes, I was.
Please tell the jurors what you were asked to do.
Investigator Rosenthal contacted our department and requested some follow-up investigation.
Let me stop you right there a minute. Investigator Rosenthal, did you know or have an idea of what agency was asking you to perform this task?
Yes, the DeKalb County District Attorney's Office.
The DeKalb County District Attorney's Office? Okay, I'm sorry. And what specifically were you asked to do?
To do some follow-up investigation. When I talked to Investigator Rosenthal, he asked that...
I'm going to stop you. Please don't, I'm going to ask you a different question. Please don't tell me what Detective or Investigator Rosenthal said. Just please tell me what you did as a result of the request he made.
Okay, so the request was to contact a couple of hotels in the area to do some follow-up with the hotels in person. Some of the hotels didn't want to release the information without an officer being present in person.
Is that kind of thing a common request, or not an uncommon request from an agency, law enforcement agency that's outside the area?
No, it is not an uncommon request.
Okay. All right, so what then did you do after receiving this request? Where specifically did you go?
I went to the Hampton Inn on South Main Street there in Longmont.
That's South Main Street in Longmont, Colorado?
That's correct.
Okay.
And I made contact with the managers there.
All right. Were you looking for information, let me ask you, what kind of information were you looking for from the Hampton Inn in Longmont, Colorado?
The detailed records of Ms. Sneiderman's stay and any correspondence involving Mr. Newman.
Okay. Were you able to obtain any registration or other documents noting the registration of the defendant?
Yes.
Okay. Do you know what time period it was that the defendant was registered as a guest in the hotel, the Hampton Inn in Longmont, Colorado?
It was I believe it was the middle of July.
July what year?
I'd have to look at the report to verify.
You may approach.
Thank you, Your Honor. Detective, I'm showing you what has been previously marked as safety exhibit number 22. Do you recognize safety exhibit number 22?
I do.
Okay, what is that?
It is our case report.
Okay, and your case report, is that something that you prepared?
Yes.
Is that a report just detailing the information that you obtained and the steps you took?
Correct.
Okay. Now, I'd like you to read to yourself or use State's Exhibit number 22 to help you, if it does, refresh your memory about the time period that you obtained documents for the stay that Mrs. Sneiderman had in the Longmont, Colorado Hampton Inn.
Okay.
Is your memory refreshed?
Yes.
Okay, what time period were we talking about?
So the stay was in 2010.
And what were the dates? Do you have specific dates in July?
I did the 18th through the 23rd.
Okay. Did you make any inquiry about whether any other individual was a registered guest at the Hampton Inn in Longmont, Colorado?
Yes.
During the relevant time period?
Yes.
Okay. And who did you ask for information about?
Mr. Jaime Newman.
Okay. Hemi Newman, does that sound familiar to you?
Yes.
Okay. What was the response when you asked them to check their records to see if a Hemi Newman was registered at the hotel?
I'm going to interpose an objection. This is obvious hearsay. Witness is being asked what was the response or what did someone else tell you?
Response.
I'll ask a different question.
I sustain that objection. You want to rephrase?
I will. Did you obtain, as a result of your inquiry, did you obtain any information from the Hampton Inn about a registration for a Hemi Newman?
No, there wasn't one.
Did you speak with an employee beyond the manager that you told the jury about?
Yes.
Do you remember the name of that individual?
I spoke to several.
Do you recall their names, or can you use your report, State's Exhibit number 22, to refresh your recollection if you don't know?
And you're asking aside from the managers?
I am, and I'm going to ask you more particularly, does the name Brady Blackburn sound familiar to you?
Yes.
Okay. Without telling me what he said, did you have a conversation with Mr. Blackburn?
I did.
Okay, and did Mr. Blackburn provide information to you?
He did.
Without telling me again what he said, did Mr. Blackburn have a recollection of the events that you were asking about?
Yes, he
No,
did.
no, again, I'm going to object. The fact that Mr. Blackburn had a recollection is in fact hearsay itself.
Yeah, I'm going to sustain that objection. You want to rephrase these questions, Councilman?
I'll move on, Your Honor.
All right.
Did you obtain any documentation from the Hampton Inn in Longmont, Colorado, other than the registration documents that we've already talked about?
Yes.
What other documentation did you obtain?
So there was some detailed stay records along with a notebook that was kept behind the front counter for the clerks.
Okay. And once you obtained that logbook, as you referred to it, what did you do with it?
I placed it in our evidence.
And then what happened to it?
It was eventually forwarded to the DA's office here in DeKalb County.
All right. Did you have any contact with any other hotel in Longmont, Colorado at the request of Investigator Rosenthal?
Yes.
What other hotel did you have contact with?
There were actually two. So I had contact with the Holiday Inn and the contact with the Plaza Hotel.
And can you just tell the jurors a little bit, how large is Longmont, Colorado?
It's about 90,000 people.
90,000?
90,000, yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Would you describe it as a tourist attraction?
No.
Do you get a lot of out-of-state visitors in town?
We do as a result of the industry in town, yes.
And what's the industry in town?
We have several computer manufacturers, American General, Seagate.
Are there, can you estimate for us how many, let me ask a different question. What other hotel did you go to? You said the Holiday Inn?
Yes.
Okay. Without telling me what it was, did you obtain any information from the Holiday Inn in Longmont, Colorado?
Yes.
Was that any information relating to the defendant?
No, I'm going to object. This man is now apparently testifying about business records from the Holiday Inn. I don't believe he is an employee of the Holiday Inn. I don't believe he can testify, and I would object.
I'm going to sustain that objection. You want to rephrase that question?
I will, Your Honor, and I will refer counsel in the court to OCGA 24A803.
You may.
That's exception to the history of subsection 6 about the absence of records. And I'll ask my question in a slightly different way.
Well, if you laid a foundation, we can talk about absence of records.
Thank you, Your Honor. What other, if any, hotel did you have any communication with related to the request for assistance from the DeKalb County District Attorney's Office?
The Holiday Inn.
The Holiday Inn?
Yes.
Any other hotel in Longmont, Colorado?
Yes.
What other hotel?
Plaza Hotel.
Do you recall the address of the Plaza Hotel?
It's Ken Pratt Boulevard, but I don't know the specific address.
And which of these hotels, if any, is in close proximity to the Hampton Inn in Longmont, Colorado?
The Plaza would be the closest, the next closest.
After contacting the hotels that you've identified, did you provide any other documentation or records to the District Attorney's Office?
Yes.
What was that?
The records provided by the Holiday Inn, detailed stay records, and there were no records from the Plaza.
Let me ask you, Detective McManus, how long have you lived or worked in Longmont, Colorado?
I don't live in Longmont. I've worked there for 5 years.
Okay. Are you familiar with a restaurant called the Fawn Garden?
Yes,
Is it still in existence now?
it is.
Was it open for business, if you know, in July of 2010?
I believe that it was, yes.
How far is the Fawn Garden restaurant from the Hampton Inn in Longmont, Colorado, if you know?
Approximately a mile, maybe a little more.
Thank you, Detective.
Mr. Clegg, you may examine if you wish.
Let me just make sure, sir. How many hotels are there in Longmont?
Probably close to a dozen, 8 to 10 maybe.
I'm sorry.
8 to 10 maybe a dozen.
8 to 10, okay. And are they all in reasonably close proximity to one another?
Well, that would be relative. What is reasonably close in your
fair
book?
enough, sir. Are they within a mile or two of each other?
No.
Okay. From the farthest east to the farthest west or north and south, how far are they away from one another?
5, 6, maybe 7 miles.
Okay. So within that 5 to 6 mile area, there are 8, 10, maybe even a dozen hotels, right?
Correct.
Okay. I don't have anything else. Thanks so much.
Ms. Cross, any additional questions? Is there Ms. Anna Cross, any additional questions?
Just one, Your Honor. Detective McManus, in the location of the Hampton Inn in Longmont, Colorado, how many hotels are in the near proximity to that?
Again, that's relative.
Within a mile radius of the hotel?
The plaza would be the closest, and that's about a mile, maybe a couple of miles out.
What's the next closest, if you know?
Drive time probably would be the Holiday Inn and the Marriott, the Residence Inns in that area over there.
And how far would that be away from the Hampton Inn?
Those are probably 6 or 7 miles away.
Thank you, Detective. I have no further questions, Your Honor.
Any
I
requests?
have absolutely no other questions. Thank you very much, sir.
Excuse me. Lawyers, may this witness be released and excused, Ms. Pena?
Yes, for the state, Your Honor.
Certainly, Your Honor. Thank you, sir.
Have a good day. I was going to say drive safe, have a good flight. Call your next witness.
State calls Brady Blackburn to the stand.
Mr. Meteor Man, you may proceed as you need to with the next witness.
Solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you give to the court today should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I do. May Lord in your hand, you may be seated. Sir, if you would, please state and spell your name for the record.
My name is Brady Blackburn, B-R-A-D-Y, B-L-A-C-K, B-U-R-N.
Blackburn, in July 2010, what city did you live in?
I was living in Loveland, Colorado.
And what city did you work in?
I was working in Longmont, Colorado.
And how were you employed in Longmont, Colorado?
I was a front desk agent at the Longmont Hampton Inn.
What does that mean?
Front desk agent?
Yeah.
My duties included checking people in, checking them out. As the only one on during the evenings in particular, I would do anything from fixing air conditioners to plunging toilets to running pillows, whatever needed to be done.
Okay. Whatever needed to be done. When something needed to be done, did the hotel employees make a record of it?
Yes.
Okay, and where did they make this record of it?
Our most common record was the logbook, which was kept at the front desk.
And would y'all, being the hotel employees, make that record contemporaneous to the request? And by the request, I mean someone coming saying, I need this done.
Yes. It was a means of communicating with the other shifts.
And was this logbook something that was available to the general public, or was it just for hotel employees?
Only for hotel employees.
And as an employee of the Longmont Hampton Inn back in 2010, were you familiar with the way that these records were kept?
Yes.
And did you yourself take part in keeping these records?
I did.
And if you could tell us a little bit about the logbook, was it something that was just for the person that was working, or was it for, did it record notes that were passed along to other employees?
Yeah, that was its primary purpose, was to pass along information from shift to shift. Because there wasn't a whole lot of overlap between shifts. We had to keep each other updated on changes that were made, special requests that were permitted, things like that.
Sometimes.
Your Honor, if well, you're showing opposing counsel what's been previously marked as State Exhibit number 23.
That's 23. Thank you, sir. You may approach.
May I approach?
Yes, sir.
I am showing you what's been previously marked as State Exhibit number 23. If you could take a look at that.
Yes, sir.
Don't tell me what it says yet, just tell me if you recognize it.
I do.
Was that document prepared in the normal course of business?
It was.
Is the information contained on that document, was it taken down either contemporaneous to or soon after the request of the communication was made?
It was.
Were the people who made these notes exclusively employees of the Longmont Hampton Inn?
Yes.
Was it the regular practice of the hotel, the Longmont Hampton Inn, to make these records that are on that particular page?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this point, I would tender State's Exhibit number 23, I believe, into evidence as a business record.
Any objection?
Yes, sir. this particular document contains a narrative or documentation. First off, we have no idea whether this gentleman actually took down this information or not. We have a single page of what purports to be a business record, but even if it is a business record, if it contains hearsay, it does not get around the fact that it is hearsay. I can't write in a police report, if I were an officer, here's what a witness told me, and then say that's an exception to the hearsay rule. This is exactly what we have here, so I'm objecting on that basis, Your Honor.
Mr. James?
Your Honor, I think Mr. Clegg is mistaken. There's a qualitative difference between a police report and a business record that was not Federal Appeal 743 as well, Your Honor. That is the United States of America versus Carlos Fernandez, also an 11th Circuit case, and I can give the court a copy of the case law that I have as well.
All right, you may approach. And Mr. James, let me just ask one question. It appears to be a single document that you have handed this witness, and there was a reference to a log.
It is one page out of a logbook, and I believe that would be the testimony. It's not the entire logbook, but it's one page on the pertinent date torn out of the logbook.
All right. I'm going to overrule the objection. Exceptions noted. You may proceed. You may cover the cases in addition to what you cited, if you wish.
Yes, sir. I would.
Thank you, sir. Objections overruled. You may proceed. And that's the S-23 submitted into the record. You may publish it to the jury if you wish.
Can we start at the top of this document where it says 7 o'clock, and could you read from left to right?
Yes, sir. In the parentheses, you see 7 o'clock flight. A notation is made underneath that says chalk and flowers. And then there's a name, Hemi, 404-797-3650, newly married.
Could you read underneath and minimize just a little bit? Underneath where it says Brady.
Yes, sir. Brady, Andrea Sneiderman's husband called for you to remind you what you were gonna do for him / his wife.
Okay. Minimize it again. All right. And there's an arrow pointing to something that says note. Can you start after note and read that as well?
Yes, sir. Note, Andrea, for the sweetest and most beautiful woman in the world, peaceful sleep knowing that you are always in my dreams. Love, Hemi.
Mr. Blackburn, I want to ask you about July the 18th of 2010.
Yes, sir.
Did you have a specific recollection of that particular day?
Certain events on that day, yes, sir.
Certain events on that day. Can you tell the jury whether or not you actually checked Andrea Sneiderman in on that day?
I did.
Your Honor, I'm showing opposing counsel what's been marked as State's Exhibit number 24.
That's 24, yes, sir.
May I approach, Your Honor?
You may.
Correct, Mr. Blackburn, I'm showing you what's been previously marked as State's Exhibit number 24. If you could take a look at that, read it over, and tell me if you recognize that.
Yes, sir, I do.
Was this document prepared in the normal course of business?
It was.
Is the information placed, or is the information displayed in that document, does that come from a computer?
Yes, sir.
Do only Longmont Hampton employees have access to that computer?
Yes, sir.
For the people who made the notes in that document or in that file, the actual employees that were being given that information?
Yes, well, what we're looking at is a record history prepared by the computer based on changes that were made to a reservation.
Was it the regular practice or the regular business practice of your hotel to make this record?
Yes.
Your Honor, at this time I would ask for State's Exhibit number 24 to be entered into evidence.
Any objection to S-24, Mr. Clegg?
Your Honor, without any sort of evidence as to who would have entered this particular documentation or information into the computer system, I would object to its admission.
Response, Mr. James.
Your Honor, again, it's well settled for a business record that that individual does not have to testify, and I believe it's in one of the cases that I gave the court, only an individual that is familiar with the practices of this particular establishment in terms of how they keep records, and he's already testified that he is.
I'm over the objection. You may publish it to the jury. Exceptions noted.
Can you tell us who checked Andrea Sneiderman in?
That would have been myself. My initials are noted there, BCB.
Can you launch that for me? And can you tell us around what time that would have been and what date?
The timing, well, the date and timing here is showing GMT time, so it's 6 hours ahead of the time that it would have been happening in Mountain Time. So here you see Monday, July 19th at 3:57 a.m. Subtract 6 hours from that and you get her check-in time.
And could you just do a little math for us and tell us?
Yeah, that would have been 9:57 in the evening
9:57 p.m.
on the 18th.
And when you checked Andrea Sneiderman in, can you tell us how many people you checked into the rooms?
It says here that the booking was modified from 1 guest to 2.
Okay. And who did that?
Myself.
Why would you have modified her booking from 1 guest to 2?
Because there would have been 2 guests. Either I would have been told by the guest checking in that there were 2 guests, or I would have seen 2 people in the room.
Do you have any specific recollection?
No, sir.
You just remember that that's your practice?
That is my practice, yes, sir.
At any point in her stay, did she ever change her reservation status?
Yes, sir.
And what day was that on?
What part of her reservation are you referring to?
As it pertains to her room, the room number.
Oh, yes, sir. She changed from room 203 to room 320.
And can you take a look at the record and tell us if there was a change as it pertains to the bed, the type of bed she had?
I can tell you that she had requested a king bed to move into a king bed on the 21st of July, but without the room or the hotel was very full, and no king bed was available. You can see on page 3 of what you handed me, request non-smoking room king bed, and then on the final page of what would be her second reservation, moved from 203, could not get into king.
When you checked her in, did you actually, can you put the other exhibit up again, exhibit number 23? If you could look at the picture in the log book.
Mm-hmm.
Right here where it says note, did you actually read that to her when you checked her in?
I don't recall actually reading the note. I believe I expressed the sentiment, something to the effect of, Hemi says he loves you.
You told her Hemi says he loves you.
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Yes, sir.
Did she seem shocked when you said that?
No, sir.
How did she respond?
She blushed. She seemed rather bashful. She averted her eyes for a second, looked at the ground, looked back at me, nodded in acknowledgement.
And blushed?
And blushed.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Mr. Clegg, is your witness?
Yes, thank you, Judge. Blackburn, the gentleman who was in here before, Detective McManus, do you remember him coming to talk to you?
I do, sir.
And you made a statement to him, did you not?
I did,
And that statement was reduced to writing, right?
as I recall.
And he gave you a chance to review it before you signed it, right?
I don't specifically recall that, no, sir.
I'm going to show you what has been marked for purposes of identification as defense exhibit number 4. May I approach you?
You may. You said this is D4, Mr. Clegg? D4? That's number 4.
Number 4, I believe that's what I...
You may go ahead.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Do you recognize that document?
Yes, sir.
And is that the copy of the statement that you gave to Detective McManus?
It appears so, yes, sir.
Okay. And it is fairly lengthy, is it not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you write it, or did Detective McManus write it?
This is my handwriting, sir.
Okay, so that was what you wrote. You didn't need him to write it for you, right?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, take a look at the bottom of page 4. You can just start reading there, okay? Read that to yourself, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay, now I'm going to, is that what you said, sir?
Is this what I wrote?
Yes,
Appears so, yes, sir.
yes, sir. I mean, it's your handwriting, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, you in fact did write, she came in and I had been deliberating whether or not to give her the note, correct?
Yes, sir.
Though I can't say this with complete certainty, I believe I read it to her. Is that what you said to the detective, sir?
Yes, sir.
And that would have been back on, again, may I approach you? March the 3rd of, no, that's your birthday, I'm sorry, March 30th of 2011, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, now she was in the Hampton Inn in, I guess, July of 2010, correct?
Correct.
And you get questioned about this by the Longmont Police Department in March of 2011, correct?
Correct.
And when you are asked, or you write in your own narrative, that you don't recall whether you actually read the note to her at all, correct?
As I just explained to Mr. James, I recall that expressing the sentiment to her. Whether or not I read the actual note I don't recall.
Okay. Let me take a look at the note again, sir, the document.
You got it.
Okay. Take a look at okay. The bottom says, does it not, though I cannot say this with complete certainty, I believe I read it to her, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, you were indicating that you thought, I can't say this with complete certainty, does that apply to, I don't know if I read it to her, or I don't know if I paraphrased it to her, or does it mean I don't know if I communicated to her at all?
It means exactly what it said. Although I cannot say this with complete certainty, I believe I read it to her. So it was whether I read it to her or not that I cannot say with complete certainty.
In that particular note, or in that particular statement, did you put anything about her alleged response when she saw, when you read whatever or said whatever to her?
Are you asking if I wrote it down in here, sir?
Yeah, by all means.
I don't recall.
Well, feel free to read it.
Would you like me to read all 4 pages of it right now, sir?
I just want, you can read it to yourself, sir, and then answer the question.
It appears I did not record her response after that point, no.
Okay. So at least as of March 30th of 2011, you did not put anything in your handwritten statement about the response that she made when you either read or paraphrased it to her. Is that correct?
It appears that way, yes, sir.
And you are detail-oriented. Is that fair to say, sir?
Sure.
Okay. I mean, you wrote a 5-page statement on your own, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, the document that the prosecutor just showed you regarding the reservation changes.
Yes, sir.
Do you have that with you? Is it
Yes,
up there?
I have it.
Okay. And that is, again, may I approach
You may.
That is State's Exhibit number 24. That is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-page document. Is that not, sir?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And when was the reservation initially made?
The first reservation or the second reservation, sir?
The first reservation for Mrs. Sneiderman, sir.
I do not have that information in front of me, sir.
There is nothing on the record to reflect when that reservation was made, is that correct?
Correct, sir.
Okay. There is information to reflect that the request was for, at least on Sunday, July the 18th, a king-size room, correct? A room with a king-size bed, I'm sorry.
On July the 18th?
Yes, on July the 18th at 12:17:38 p.m. You see that, do you not?
Yeah, I do.
Now, this is rather cryptic. Maybe you can explain this. The reservation modification at that time says from a regular non-smoking king bed to a regular non-smoking king bed. What's the difference between one and the other, sir?
A colon.
A colon, but I mean,
On
the
the
rooms are the same, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, I mean, I understand we can get into punctuation, but as far as the actual, do some rooms have a colon and do some rooms not?
Correct. Yes, that appears to be the difference.
I mean, the room is modified from the one room to an identical room, correct?
That's not the room being modified, sir. That's
Well-
the request.
Okay, that's a request. So
Yes.
the request,
RQ stands for
the
request.
request was to modify it from a king-size non-smoking room to a king-size non-smoking room, right?
What you're looking at here is someone removing extraneous punctuation. There's a request, non-smoky room, king bed, or perhaps adding extraneous punctuation. Someone added a colon and pressed enter. That request simply has an extra colon.
Okay. And then subsequent to that, at 3:57 in the morning, the room was modified. Is that correct?
The reservation went from being guaranteed to checked in. So that is her check-in time, yes.
What time was the actual check-in?
9:57 Mountain Time.
9:57 Mountain Time. So would that correspond to 3:57?
It does.
Okay.
And you can check the receipt for that as well.
Okay. So 9:57 Mountain Time is 2 hours behind Eastern Time, right?
Correct.
Okay, so that means the check-in would have been at 9:57 Mountain Time, which would be consistent with 11:57 Eastern Time, correct?
That's how the math would work, I think.
Okay. But the document makes reference to 3:57 a.m., correct?
Correct.
Explain that one.
You would like me to explain time zones, sir?
No, sir. I understand time zones completely. You concede that you say she checked in at 9:57 Mountain Time, right?
Yes, sir.
And you concede that Eastern Time would have been 11:57, right?
Correct.
So tell us, since you're explaining time zones, 3:57 in the morning the following day would be in what time zone?
Greenwich Mean Time, I believe, sir.
Okay. So you're basing your hotel reservations on Greenwich Mean Time?
No, Hilton Central bases its reservation system on Greenwich Mean Time. It appears when looking at it in Colorado, you see Colorado time.
You ever been to London?
I have, sir.
How many hours is it ahead of New York?
London is, I don't know, is it 5?
5 or 6, right?
Yeah.
5 or 6, 3:57 to 11:57 is 4 hours, right?
3:57 to 11:57?
11:57 in one time zone and 3:57 in the morning in another time zone is a difference of 4 hours, is it not?
Yes, sir.
That would not compute with it being timed under Greenwich Mean Time, correct?
I couldn't say, sir. Perhaps this was during daylight savings. I don't know. But if you do look at the receipt itself, it does say 9:57 p.m.
Okay. So, okay. Now, do you folks, when somebody leaves, issue some sort of document called a stay detail or a reservation history?
When someone leaves the,
Yeah, I mean, do they get, when somebody leaves the hotel, do they get some sort of documentation regarding their stay at the hotel?
yes, they get a receipt.
Okay, and do they get some sort of printout from Hilton or from the Hampton Inn showing how long they had stayed and other details concerning their room?
They receive a receipt which expresses their charges, the nights they were there, what charges were done on what days, what room they were in, what kind of room they were in, things like that.
Okay, and it would also reflect how many folks were actually in their room, right?
Sure.
Okay, let me show you first off what has been, may I approach you?
You may.
Defendant's Exhibit number 5. You recognize it? Is that a record generated by the Hampton Inn in Longmont, Colorado, sir?
This is a record generated by OnQ, which is Hilton's
Part of the
system.
Hilton system, right?
Yes.
And generated in the regular course of business
Sure.
by Hilton Company, which I guess owns and operates the Hampton Inn, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And it specifically makes reference to the room rented by Andrea Sneiderman between July 18th of 2010 and July 23rd of 2010, right?
It does.
And it lists the number of adults in the room, does it not?
It does.
I'm going to object at this juncture. I don't think that counsel has laid a foundation that this witness is a proper custodian for OnQ system. He may be able to do so, and if he does, then I will draw my objection, but I don't think he's done so at this time.
Response?
Your Honor, I will do so. Are you familiar with the OnQ system?
Yes, sir.
Are those documents generated in the regular course of business by the Hampton Inn?
Yes, sir.
And are they provided to customers when they leave the Hampton Inn?
No, sir.
Are they maintained by the Hampton Inn and by the Hilton Company as a part of the regular course of business?
Yes, sir.
And they are generated at or about the time that these transactions occur, are they not?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I believe I have laid a proper foundation, Your Honor. At this time, I would move to tender Defense Exhibit number 5 into evidence.
All right, submitted without further objection. Did you say they are not given to a customer?
They are not.
Okay. But I will allow it in. There's no objection. Go ahead.
Okay. Now, again, taking a look at Defense Exhibit number 5, does it cover a particular time period, sir?
Yes, sir. What we're looking at is stay history. Yes, sir.
And does it cover from July 18th of 2010 to July 23rd of 2010?
No, sir.
What does it cover, sir?
What it covers is June 21st to July 15th of 2010.
Let me see that
You
document.
said June 21st?
Yes, sir. That's when the reservation was made. What you're looking at here is a record history that details changes that were made to a reservation beginning when it was created by, you'll see the agent there, USWA, the travel agency, on June 15th.
Okay. Well, let me ask you to take a look at Defense Exhibit number 6, sir. Do you recognize what that document is?
Yes, sir.
And is that document generated by the Hampton Inn as part of the Hilton hotel chain?
Yes, sir.
And is that document kept in the regular course of business?
Yes, sir.
And what exactly is that document?
This is a part of the stay detail, another tab of it, called stay information.
Okay. And stay detail reflects the information of an individual stay at the Hampton Inn in Longmont, Colorado, does it not?
It does.
Okay. And is that document, is the information which is contained on that document generated at the time of the stay or immediately thereafter?
Could you rephrase the question?
Is the document generated during the course of the stay of the individual at the hotel?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I would move for the admission of Defense Exhibit number 6 at this time.
Any objection?
No, sir.
All right. The 6 is admitted without objection. You may publish it to the jury.
Okay. Now, that particular object, or that particular item, Defense Exhibit number 6, refers to a time period, does it not?
It does.
July 18th, 2010 to July 23rd, 2010.
No,
right?
sir.
It doesn't?
No, sir.
You may approach.
It's July 21st, 2010 through July 23rd,
Oh,
2010.
you are correct, sir. I apologize. My apologies. Okay. So it concerns from July 21st of 2010 to July 23rd, 2010, right?
This is correct.
And it reflects how many people were in the room, right?
Yes, sir.
How many people are registered or listed on that particular document as having been present in that room?
1, sir.
Is there any stay detail document that you have regarding Mrs. Sneiderman's stay at the Hampton Inn that shows that there were 2 people in that room?
I'm sorry, in this particular confirmation, sir? There are 2 different confirmation numbers. One for her stay from the 18th to the 21st, and one for her stay from the 21st to the 23rd.
Okay.
Yes,
The
sir.
one from the 18th to the 21st, does that show 1 person in the room?
The stay detail you just showed me doesn't have the 18th to the 21st, sir.
Doesn't have it on there, okay. Well, be that as it may, we're not terribly concerned about the 18th through the 21st from the...
I'm going to stay, Mr. Clay. Hold on, lawyer. You can ask questions, but let's not testify. What's the question?
Okay. The document related to July 21st to July 23rd shows 1 person in the room, correct?
Correct, sir.
Okay. Now let me show you, what was the number of that last exhibit, number 6?
6, sir.
Okay, I'm going to mark something as defense exhibit number 7.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, before we go to D7, you've been here all day. I'm going to go in and send you home. I'm not trying to wear you out. We're going to be here for a little while anyway. So let me give you these instructions before I conclude today. When I do conclude today, when you go for today, do not discuss the case. I allow anyone to discuss the case with you. The notes that you've taken, just leave them there in the jury room with your name on them, turn them face down. No one's going to look at your notes but you, and they'll be there for your purposes. You can continue to wear your badges so that you will have those with you, and the deputies get in a position so he can return your communication devices to you. As I may have mentioned, and you will hear me say this each and every evening and each and every day, do not discuss the case at this point in time. I'll allow anyone to discuss the case with you. Once I release you for the evening, do not remain upon the floor. Do not read or look at any media coverage pertaining to this case. Do not go upon the internet and do any research about this case. Do not blog about this case while it is ongoing. Excuse me. Do not attempt to go to any location that may or may not have been made reference to. All the evidence will come to you in the form of sworn testimony from this witness stand and any evidence that's introduced during the course of the trial. You're more than welcome to bring something to snack and eat with you during the breaks, during tomorrow and the next day and the following days. Do not consume any alcoholic beverages during lunch and do not overindulge in the evenings. If you do bring your cell phones and a communication devices, make sure you put them in the off position when you turn them over to the deputy, and because you cannot have any type of communication device there in the jury room. As I may have mentioned earlier, the lawyers and the parties and the litigants cannot talk or interact with you. I don't ever want you to think they're being rude or discourteous. We're going to reconvene tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock, and we're going to follow a similar procedure that we have followed today. That's what it is, Monday. Some days when you come in, I may be involved in other matters unrelated to this case. You just come into the courtroom, don't worry about me, you just come on in, or come on in the interest, but sometimes I do other things other than this case before you get here. But don't be distracted by that. Don't draw any emphasis from that one way or the other. At this point in time, we're going to be on recess until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. All right.
Welcome back to 11 Alive's continuing coverage of the Andrea Sneiderman trial. I'm Jeff Hellinger along with attorney Paige Pate. We have been here since 9 a.m. this morning. We have been discussing some of the evidence that has been presented so far today, opening statements from the defense and from the prosecutor. It has been a central theme today, infidelity, and that has been a subject that has dominated almost everything that has been discussed in this courtroom of Gregory A. Adams today.
Absolutely, and I think we're going to hear more about it tomorrow and the following day and through the rest of the week. As long as the state is presenting their case, they're going to touch on the allegations in the indictment. They have to do that, but they're going to keep that central theme of infidelity going.
Any thoughts on the first day about things seen and unseen? Is there anything that jumps out to you as far as that you will take away from this courtroom today?
Well, day one in a trial that's expected to last several weeks can sometimes seem like a very long day because you have a lot of basic information. You got to get out in front of the jury. You have to lay foundations for documents, emails, clips from trials. So it can seem very dry at times, and I'm sure the jury has been certainly paying attention, but I know they feel like it's a long day as well.
Andrea Sneiderman's friends there in the background. We are now seeing the scene inside the courtroom after a very, very long day. The Sneiderman family we have also seen today, so This is day one of what is expected to be a 3-week-long trial. We saw a trial within a trial. We saw the DVD of Andrea Sneiderman from earlier this year during the Hemi Newman trial. It was a very different looking Andrea Sneiderman that we saw earlier in the year than we have seen during the month of August so far. And that's one of those issues that the prosecution is hoping will resonate with jurors.
Absolutely. Keep showing those clips from the first trial. Remind the jury that this is not the same Andrea Sneiderman you may see in front of you today. No matter how she's changed her look, she's the same woman that made these statements back in the first trial.
Some of the other evidence that, as we take a look at Rusty Sneiderman's brother, who is here from the Cleveland area today, and Rusty Sneiderman's mother there is screen right. There she is with the glasses as they are surveying some of the information from today. What to expect tomorrow? Let's look ahead a little bit.
Well, we need to finish up with this witness who is still on the stand, so they'll continue with this witness for as long as they need to, and then more state's witnesses. At this point, are we going to get into more evidence of infidelity, or are we going to go back to the false statements? Are we going to play more trial clips? At some point, they will have to show these other interviews that she gave to detectives and other law enforcement officers to, again, try to introduce those statements and then later prove that they were false.
We saw a representative from General Electric, who is based in Cincinnati, whose job was to harvest the laptops, the emails from the communication between Hemi Newman and also Andrea Sneiderman. We also saw a bartender who was from Greenville, South Carolina, working at a dance club called The Pulse, where the only dancers were that of Hemi Newman and Andrea Sneiderman, according to the witness's testimony that we saw today. We also heard from a gentleman who worked at the Hampton Inn in Longmont, Colorado, where they had a business encounter, so to speak. And we also heard from very early a human resource director of General Electric in the Sandy Springs area, which is where both were employed at the time when they first met in April of 2010. So those are the witnesses that we saw today. Tomorrow we will see even more, I'm sure.
Absolutely. We look forward to it.
All right, Paige Pate is going to be with me for the 6 and 7 o'clock news. Of course, we will have information coming your way on the Rundown at 10 on my ATL TV. And that comes up at 10 o'clock tonight, then on 11 Alive at 11 p.m. So we have plenty of information coming your way on all of our various platforms, 11alive.com, and on the digital channel 11.2. A final look at Andrea Sneiderman on this first day of testimony in her trial, in which she is facing 13 felonies relating to perjury and obstruction of justice. So for Paige Pate, I'm Jeff Hullinger. We will see you on 11 Alive News coming up in about 57 minutes. Have a good evening, everybody.